Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally, and with me today is Sheree Clark from Fork in the Road. And Sheree, I love the name of your business, and I wish I had met you about 5 years before I did, because boy, was I in a fork in the road. And you have had several different careers, but your latest incarnation is as a coach to help women navigate the second half of their lives. You're keeping it fun. You're great at helping people drill down to making tough choices about relationships, career, and most importantly, how to live life for you, because that sure is something nobody ever taught us. So, welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. And I think I happen to be one of those rare people, maybe, that thinks that midlife is actually the best time of life.
I gotta agree with you now, but yeah, when I was facing the big fork in the road, I found I didn't have the cognitive ability to work anymore, and that was my whole life, being a veterinarian. So now what do I do? So, and I know that women everywhere are facing those problems. So, how did you get started doing what you're doing to help support women?
Great question. Well, like many people, or I'm assuming like many people, what we think we're going to do when we're younger may or may not turn out to be exactly where we end up. So when I was little, when you think back, when you were little, what did you want to be? And people would ask you, and you wanted to be a firefighter or a ballerina or whatever it was. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was told, not necessarily in these words, but the message, how the messaging comes through to you loud and clear. That's nice. You want to be a teacher, honey, but teachers don't make a lot of money. And if you want to be successful in this world, you will do something else like business or whatever. And, so without even kind of thinking about it, we listen and we follow that path. And so I did go into business and I was successful at it. And my fork in the road came when I was in my 50s, and I realized that I was successful by everybody else's standards, but I wasn't very happy. And so I made the decision that I was going to make a change, and it was extremely scary. It's like in your heart of hearts that you're not where you're supposed to be, and you know that something needs to change, but you're afraid because I could lose this, or bad thing could happen. And when I did make the change, and it ended up being as fabulous as I had imagined and hoped and dreamed and prayed, then I realized, oh my gosh, there are others. There are other women that are having this same experience, and I know how to get there. I know the way. I know the path. I left breadcrumbs. So that's kind of
That is so awesome, because that's it. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things when you figure out how to make whatever it is work, then you can show that to others and prevent the sort of needless suffering of reinventing the wheel all over again. That is so awesome.
Yep.
And is there one thing in particular that you find most women need help with in all of your conversations across the years?
Yeah. Well, the title that I have given myself is Courage Coach. And so I find that women more than anything need the courage to fill in the blank. And for many, whatever comes after the word to. So I need the courage to blank. For many, it's the courage to believe in themselves. And it's the courage to say, I am capable of this, that I am worth the risk, that I will land on my feet. So it can be a self confidence issue, but it's always the courage to, in many cases, it's take that first step. And what I think the thing, and this is kind of a longer answer perhaps into your question, but I think what happens is we look beyond the first step all the way to the end of all the things that could go wrong, all of the stuff that could go off the rails. What could happen if the economy does this? And what could happen if the world ends? And what could happen? And then we realize about it.
Right on, right on. And that's the truth. I mean, analysis paralysis, I mean, that's a commonly used phrase, but it is the truth. I mean, that's what, for me personally, that was what prevented me from saying, okay, I can't do this clinical practice anymore. but I can do this. And
Right.
I was fortunate to have folks to help me get there. Um, so right on, because so many of us need that just little push to help get us going in the right direction.
Yes. But the other thing I think is the perspective of sometimes we're myopic about our future. We might think, well, in your example, I could be in clinical practice or I could not be a veterinarian. And you think that those are your two choices. I do it the way that I've always done it, or I don't do this and I have to do something else. When reality is, there are all those gray areas. There's all
Yes.
these, the blend, the hybrid. So that's the thing. That's where I like to live too, is helping people see hybrids.
Right on. And that's the thing, is that the shades of gray are kind of where the opportunities are. Because, and you're exactly right. I was in this or that, or Walmart greeter. That was briefly on my list as career options. And right now, and this, you and I met because you interviewed me last year for this fabulous event you put on called the Magnificent Midlife Woman Series. And I mean, when did you start doing this event? Because it is just so valuable.
Well, I am in the midst of my 10th series.
Wow.
And so I've been doing it a long time. I love doing the series and I love finding women like yourself and men. And it's all about midlife. The series is, and midlife is more than just hormones and bone health. There are other topics that we're interested in.
Yes.
And, so I get to be creative and I get to think like, well, what kinds of other topics are we interested in? What am I interested in as a midlife woman myself? And so that's how I found you.
Right on. And that's how you end up finding all of your speakers, is by the topics that you know you're interested in, that you've heard. I would assume that you've heard common threads of interest from your clients and things of that nature. But golly, I mean, the range of topics is just astonishing. So I'm going to see if I can bring up the uh, web page so I can share kind of what that looks like with you. And there we
Yes,
go.
and while you're doing that, I can share with you some of the ones that we have. Oh, beautiful. What a nice job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we have lots of different topics, and of course, there's the usual suspects, like I said, hormones and bone health. Those are important things. I wasn't being dismissive about those. But
Right.
there are other things like many of us at midlife as women have companion animals, and they are our fur babies. And so
Right
that's why
on.
I had invited you. That's kind of one of those. And there are other health things beyond things like hormones and bones, like our teeth. My mother had dentures. I don't want to have dentures. If I can avoid that, that's what I'm going to do. Um,
Right.
eye health. I do wear glasses. I have readers. Um, and I would like to keep my vision from getting worse. And so we have an eye expert. I have someone talking to us about boundaries and setting and keeping them. And we all have
That's huge.
boundary issues, every one of us, even those. I think of me as I'm an independent woman. I'm strong minded. I can do this. I can do this thing. But there are times that you're like, your boundaries get a little bit fuzzy or blurry, and so that's another topic. Divorce, not that anybody goes into a committed relationship expecting it to terminate, whether it's a real marriage or whether it's just a commitment. We all expect it to be forever. And what happens when it feels like it might not be? So topics like that, money is another one. Who doesn't think about that? Even if you have a lot of it, then you think about, well, how do I protect it? How do I pay the least amount of taxes? Of course, there's so many angles.
That is the truth. And it feels like too. I mean, we women in our age group, we've done our best to educate ourselves, but there's just so much information out there, and it feels like the rules of the game are changing constantly. So good on you for pulling all of this together, because I think that's kind of the key thing, is that there's no way we can keep up on all of this stuff by ourselves. And so kudos for putting this on with so many different topics.
Yes, and
Now,
even
go
following
ahead, sorry.
experts. There are so many. There's again, I talk about usual suspects. There are the certain name doctors and fitness experts and the ones that keep coming up over and over and over again. And the way that I think what my mission is, yes, I think that those people became famous and extremely well known for a particular reason. But I also know that there are the smaller practices and the ones that don't have 2 million followers that have some really important things to say. And just like the difference between eating in a chain restaurant and the small local place that the chef, because you see the chef walking down the street or at farmer's market or in your church, that's what I aim to do, is to find a wide variety of people. I think that's where the magic is.
Yeah, and that's so awesome. That is so awesome. Now, you're 5 days into this event, but it actually runs through to February 4th. So, if you're just kind of finding out about this, those of you they're watching with us, go check it out and sign up. It's super simple. And you are so playful with all of this. Let's book this trip. Who's driving the bus? I mean, this really cracks me up. But go sign up and check it out. It's completely free. That way you can get an idea about the options that are available to you. And if you're like me, these are some of these things I haven't even thought about. And I'm like you. I mean, I have to pick up a pair of glasses to do anything, which just irritates the bejeebers out of me. So I sure as heck don't want it to get worse.
Right.
But I think this will be of benefit to everybody. So go check it out. If you are not familiar with Sheree, the other thing I'm going to do is share your website so you can go check that out. And see what's going on. But you've got, I mean, aside from the magnificent Midlife Woman conference going on, you've got some ongoing events that just are awesome. So it'll get folks a little taste of what you have to offer, and kind of get other folks some ideas about where to go next. So check that out. And then, I really have had so much fun getting to know you. And I really think that you have a ton to offer so many people. So if you had one thing that you could say to somebody that's in the middle of and I love the video on your website where you're sort of up at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering about all this stuff. If you had one thing to say to somebody as far as here's how you can take your first step, what would that be?
I think for many women, the first step is very much like your work. Before you can prescribe something to remedy, you have to make a diagnosis. And I think that taking steps for the diagnosis would be probably the first thing I would urge women to do. And the way that I suggest that they go about that is to spend a little focused time by yourself in a place where you've got peace, and you can sit and you can ask yourself and ask your heart a simple question. And when I suggest that women do this, I say, sit in a chair, find yourself a comfortable spot, do some deep breathing, center yourself. And then I suggest you begin by placing your hand over your heart, and then you place your other hand over the top of that. I suggest that you close your eyes and that you ask your heart a simple question. And the simple question is this: what do you really want for us? And take a moment and be silent and listen to what happens. And sometimes you'll hear a loud yelling answer. The answer will be abundant and robust. And other times it's a whisper. And sometimes it's not an answer that's audible. It will be the feeling that you want to cry, or you feel tearful, or you feel a surge of emotion. That's a good sign. That's a sign you're tapping into a place that you haven't tapped into for a while. So that's where I would begin looking inward, and then give me a call and I'll take you to the next step.
Right on. And that's so critical. I mean, we spend our days being filled up with sounds and distractions and images and things like that. And it is so hard to take that 3 minutes even just for ourselves to get quiet and calm down and start listening. So right on, right on. So we've got about 12 folks on with us, and if you've got questions for Sheree, post them up. I'm again, I think a simple place to start is to just head over, and let me put these links in for you all too. Head over to the web page, sign up for Magnificent Midlife Woman series, and go check out Sheree's website, because one of the other things she's got there is down at the bottom. You can scroll down and you can check out the Chasing Fireflies games. And I thought that was really cool because, essentially you're asking women to disconnect from all the things that keep us occupied and just calm it down, go be an observation. And it's so incredibly difficult to do to start with. So thank you for that. Thank you for those gifts.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think that's what I've got for you. Have you got anything else I didn't ask you that you think is really important for our listeners to know?
I think what I would ask if I were a listener, I would think, this whole coach thing, why would I want or need a coach? I've been through therapy. And one of the things that I say as an analogy is I have a therapist. I think therapy is fabulous, and I think that it's important. And I know that in my therapy work with my own therapist, we spend a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror about how did I end up feeling this way about certain things, or what kinds of things in my childhood made me the type of person that I am. And a coach spends a little bit of time glancing in that rearview mirror, but spends most of their time looking out the windshield. Like, I understand we need to know what's going on back there, but what are we going to do next? Where are we going from here? What's next? And so I think that the two things, whether you have a therapist or not, they're great companions. And if you don't have one, that's fine. You can look out the windshield, and every now and then I'll get you to glance out the rearview mirror. And so that's what I would say to somebody who's not familiar or not already steeped in the concept of coaching, that don't be afraid of it. It's not a big, scary, hairy thing. It's actually pretty wonderful.
It is. It is. And truly, this was one of the tools that did help me get through that really difficult time. But it was interesting. So I went from high performance coaching to like, oh God, what do I do now? But my coach was able to kind of pivot and help me ground and say, okay, you're not in the hospital. You don't have all this stuff going on. And yeah, right now you can't do clinical practice, but what can you do? What can you offer? And that was so, so critical, because it took me, I'm a little obstinate. So it took me about, 12 weeks to start getting that message of, okay, you don't have to be in black and white. You can get in the middle here, get in the gray, and you'll find some answers there.
Yes. And here's the thing, the coach has experience in presenting those options or helping you discover them on your own. And your coach doesn't have a horse in the race. So you might say, well, I can talk to my best friend or my spouse or whatever about that. But the thing about it is that the coach is the objective party that can say, what if, and the what if might upset the entire apple cart, or might be something that someone else in your circle might say, well, what will that do to me, and how will that change how we are? When the reality is, we all need to be thinking about ourselves and our needs, and putting on our own oxygen mask first. And that's what
Yes.
a coach can offer in terms of perspective.
Pepe agrees. I don't know if you can hear him in the
I can
background.
hear
He's like,
Pepe.
yeah, yeah, me first. He's actually was my role model through all of that because he just took care of himself, and it didn't matter what anybody else thought. He's
That's right.
okay. I'm just going to take a nap now. I'm good. Yeah. So, but right on, because that was the other important thing, is that I think working with a coach also brings a certain degree of accountability. If you make a commitment, they're going to remind you that you did make this commitment.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
That's a part of it. So how's that going for you? It might be
Yeah,
a good question.
exactly, exactly. How's that thing we talked about last time working out? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And I
Yep.
was like, oh yeah, okay,
Oh, that.
great. Yeah, with that. Well, Sheree, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's been a little crazy getting the program going, but again, so many wonderful options and so many great things to learn about with this series. So right on, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth, and thanks for being a guest on my show a second time. You were that good that I had to have you back.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm was honored and flattered at the same time. So cheers. Okay, that's what we've got for y'all today. Go check out the Magnificent Midlife Woman series, and I think you will not be disappointed in the time you invest watching some of these lectures. It's just a fabulous lineup. So until next time, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally, and again, Sheree Clark with Fork in the Road. Just a very creative way to look at how to get to the second act and make it a happy one. Oh, golly. Take good care. Many thanks.